All right. So I'm going to make an update to my video exposing trades by side because I got a lot of comments by a lot of dumb people and a lot of people who are new in the trading world that don't know exactly how this transpired, how this trade transpired, all the way through fruition until from start to end. And I want to give a thorough explanation for those that don't have enough education in trading and the way and the style of trading that this guy does. Now, again, like I said in my last video, this guy may be a good trader. He may be a very good trader. He may be a millionaire trader. Do I truly believe that? $100 million? No, unfortunately, I do not. Do I believe that he trades market structure? Yes. Market structure. I trade market structure. I love market structure. Market structure is the shit. It's the best. It's the best for you to be able to take a trade with confidence. What I like to do is break this down for those Forex traders because a lot of people are also saying that, oh, well, you're breaking it down for a futures trader. He doesn't trade futures, he trades Forex style CFD. Okay, great. Well, let me explain this even further, which is even worse. So let's get into it. Let's break it down. Okay, so as you can see, this account has a balance of $1,000. So let's say, for example, which what the most of you would do, especially if you are a new trader, you don't want to over risk. You don't want to over risk whatsoever. So your risk going into this trade would be very low. This is what you should be doing. You should be protecting yourself. So I'll do it in two versions. I'll do a conservative trader, and then I'll do somebody who's very risky, damn near gambler. So that way you can understand how this trade ends up playing out. So for this example, because I can't go back in time and kind of show you where I would be at when he got in, I'm going to use the same amount of stop loss. So that way we can get a better, true understanding of how this works. So let's say, for example, what they were doing, what he was doing was he was buying in, right? So if you remember from the last video, when he was buying in, his stop loss was $66. Okay, it was a $66 stop loss. So buying in at 4,111, and then the stop loss was $4,045. So call it $66. Okay. So if I were to buy in right now, you will notice right here that the initial margin that this trade is going to cost me is $107. It's going to cost me $107, which is 10% of my account balance on this account, right? This is just $1,000 account. So I can give you guys this example. If I were to buy in right now, okay, for zero point 0.05 lots, which is again 10% of this account balance, as you can see, if I were to take my stop loss, okay, and let's say I created a stop loss $66 less. So if we did the math from right now at 43.04, which is where we bought in, 43, I'll do the math here for you guys. 43.04 minus $66 is down to $4,238. So we'll put that in here, $4,238, and we'll confirm that. Okay. Now, let's zoom out here and see what that stop loss actually equivalates to. So if we look at this and we break this down, that's for a 32% loss on the entire account balance. Why? Because you'd be losing $330. So just to make y'all understand, if you risked $107 into a trade and you lose that $107, that is 100% loss on that trade. Okay, that's 100% loss. If you lost $330 for this case, that would be a 300% loss on the trade. That's a 300% loss on the trade, which equals to, we're going to say 32% of your entire account balance. So you're risking 32% of your entire account balance on this trade. Okay. That's just the first stop loss. So many people have commented and told me, oh, they moved the stop loss down to 4,009, 4,009. He commented that he moved his stop loss to 4,009. Okay, no problem. So let's go ahead and break that down even more. Again, entry was around 4,111. And the stop loss was down to 4,009, which would equal $102 loss, which again, in pips, that's 1,020 pips of a stop loss. So let's see what that would equal to. Let's move this to what was my buy-in? So 4304. So 4304 minus 102 would give me 4202, 4202. Confirm that. So let's see what percentage that equates to. Oh, wow. 49%. So 50% loss on my entire account balance is what I would have risked on the trade, trading along with him and what his stop losses are, which would equate to a 500% loss on the trade. That doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. You are risking too much to make too little. So let's break this down even more, looking at the chart of what you would have been risking to how much you would have been making. So I'm going to jump into the 4-hour time frame so that way we can see exactly what was thought of. So at 41, I'm just going to draw levels here. So at $44,111, at the original stop loss of 40.45, this was the risk profile. So this was the original risk profile. Again, this video was released on November the 19th. So this was the original risk profile, only to find out that the risk was actually moved down to $4,009. So we'll put another level there. So this risk moved from where it currently sits right there, as you see on the screen. We're going to say it's about a 1 to 2. That is a 1 to 2. You're risking 1 to make 2, or $100 to make $200, or $1,000 to make $2,000. Okay, that's the risk to reward. But the actual risk ended up turning out to being that, which is a 1.3. So you're risking so damn near 1 to 1. So it ended up turning into a 1 to 1 risk to reward. However, that risk that you took, it was insane. Okay, I don't want you guys to stray away from how risky this trade was and how insane this was. Okay, so again, just so you understand, this trade ended up turning out to be basically a 1 to 1, or 1 and 1, like 1 and a third. Okay, so you get 1 and a third out of risking 1. However, it wasn't a true 1 to 1. Why? Because the 1 to 1 would have been, if I risked $100, I was going to make $100. In order for that to have been true, I couldn't have been, my stop loss cannot have been from, when I got in at 4,111 down to 4,045. The stop loss would have had to have been at $20, which is 200 pips. Okay, so my stop loss had to have been 200 pips, equivalent to $20 in gold. So roughly, give or take, down to 40.91. Okay, that's where that stop loss would have had to been, not 40.45. That doesn't make any sense. It had to have been just a $20 stop loss, so that way it would have been a true 1 to 1. Or if what his profit target was way up there, then it would have looked something like, let's say, right, 40.90. So that's what it would have looked like. That's what the risk to reward profile would have looked like if you would have been looking at a 1 to 1, right? That would have been a 1 to whatever. A 1 to 1, unfortunately, would have only looked like this, right? That's what would have been. But he was shooting for the stars. He was shooting for that previous high, which I completely understand why. I understand that. However, the risk here, the trade didn't make any sense. He got in too early. I trade market structure. I love market structure, and this has my strategy written all over it. However, he entered way too early. It didn't make any sense. The risk to reward didn't make any sense, and you're risking way too much money for your reward. Way too much. Your risk profile is out of control, it's out of hand, and this is why this trade is capped. You would have hit your stop loss, you would have hit a nasty stop loss of 300% loss, and then you would have gone even further to a 500% loss, and then you would have gotten lucky because you kept moving your stop loss down further and further and further. So it's hard to lose when you keep drawing your stop loss down so that way you never hit it. So of course you can have 90% success rate. You can have a 100% success rate if all you do is keep moving your stop loss down and risking more and more and more and more money. That is a gamble type of play. You are gambling. So in the this was in the eyes of someone who was very conservative and was only risking 10% of their account. But for the gambler that wanted to risk 100% of your account, you would have gotten stopped out immediately. As soon as we would have seen a $20 move on gold or a 200 pip move on gold, you would have been completely liquidated. You would have been done for. You're screwed. You're out of here. You got no more money left. You got to deposit back into that broker that he has affiliation to. Now, let me break down the affiliation. I want you guys to understand how affiliation and YouTube works. On YouTube, the goal is to make views and the advertisement is paying you. So the advertising pays per click. It ranges. Every video, if you've got 100,000, 200, a quarter million, or 500,000 views, you're getting paid roughly anywhere between, I would say, $10 to $40,000 per video. Just so you guys know, if you did that just once a week, you're talking about $40,000 a week. That's $160,000 a month. So guaranteed in a year, you're making $1 million. That's not even talking about the affiliation with the brokerage, which is an offshore broker, which is very hard to handle. What he posts like $70 million floating P&L, which you would have to have thousands and thousands and thousands of lots open. And again, it's an offshore broker. They could do whatever they want with that money whenever they want. It would be very hard for them to handle that, number one. Number two, the affiliation with the broker. The affiliation with the broker is, let's say, for example, his Discord has 100,000 people in it, and he has posted in his Discord his broker that he uses, right? And also in his Telegram, 100,000 users, he has his broker posted. If the broker pays him just, let's say, $100 per person, let's say half of his Discord uses that broker, that's 50,000 people. At 50,000 people times $100, that's $5 million. This is how affiliations work with brokerages. So all he has to do, he doesn't even have to promote it. All he has to do is put the link there, and half of his group can log in, get that broker, because they're all thinking, well, he's making millions of dollars with that broker. I could be doing the same thing. They get that broker, they sign up for it. He gets, obviously, if you click on that link, it's going to load up his affiliation code, and he's going to get a piece of that pie. So if you sign up, guess who's going to make money? He's going to make that money. So now put two and two together. You're making a couple million off YouTube. Then you're making 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 million off your affiliation. Now you've got 15, $20 million, and bam, you look like $1 million trader. So hopefully this makes sense to you guys. I hope this opens up your mind. I hope this educates a lot of you, because a lot of you guys are saying, oh, my videos BS. He trades Forex style. Okay, great. Now I've broken it down in the style of a Forex trader. A crazy, crazy, crazy play. Way too early of an entry. There was no protection there. Way too wide of a stop loss. And for me, this was way too risky. Me personally, where I would have entered was exactly here, and this would have been my stop loss. Right here. I would have entered at the break here, and my stop loss would have been down here. So my risk to reward makes more sense. It makes way more sense. Okay. So again, I would have entered Once my formation formed, he entered way over here on the 19th. I would have entered on the 25th of November because this would have given me confirmation on this trade. This confirmation would have told me 100% that we were moving to the north side. We were moving back up. The price of gold will be moving to the north side. It will be approaching that previous high. This would have been my risk to reward. So I would have entered there. It would have hit my break even, never pulled into my stop loss zone, and it would have provided to me 100% easy trade, 1000%. So again, breaking this down, this is exactly how I would have done it. That's my risk to reward profile. As you can see, it never slipped back in to this zone. It never. This would have been my entry. Why? Because of this previous high right here. We formed one of my strategies. On the 25th, it showed me strength to the upside to pull through that zone. It pulled through the zone with ease. That would have been my entry. I have a nice large candle. Again, this is just my strategy. And then as you see, it came back down to my entry, bounced off of it, and it pulled to the north side. So this is a way less riskier, we can say, play, trade. It's way less riskier. It gave 100% success, no drawdown whatsoever, literally zero drawdown. It gave pure profit. It never went into the negative. And this is why I say that his trade is extremely risky gamble, and the stop loss kept moving down and down and down and down. And there are so many people that have reached out to me that said, I've used this strategy before. I've gotten stopped out so many times. I've lost so much money because the risk profile is very large. It is a gambler's risk profile. So hopefully this makes any sense. If you guys have any questions, feel free to send me a DM. I'll explain this even further, just like I have explained it to every single one of you. I've tried to explain it as much as I possibly could. And to make it make sense, I decided I'll just make this video so that way no one's in the dark anymore. So that way it's very, very clear. Again, could he be a trader? Could be. Could I believe that? Not really. Was this very, 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 very risky? Yes. Hands down, very risky. Again, if you would be risking 10%, you would have to have risked 30%, 32% of a loss of your entire account, which was a 320% loss on the entire trade. And then got extended to a 500% loss or a 50% on the entire account balance, just to make that. So unfortunately, that trade didn't make any sense to me. That's why I made this video. That's why I called cap, and I stick to it. It is 1000% cap. You would have hit your stop loss, and the fact that you didn't hold your stop loss and you pulled your stop loss down even more ensures to me that you are a extreme gambler, and you make these videos after the fact just to protect yourself. And that is 100% why I say that he is fake. You can't make the video after the fact and say, oh, I protected myself and I moved my stop loss down even further, because that increases your risk profile. You're incredibly risky. And again, you're gambling at that point, because you said in the beginning, this is where I'm putting my stop loss, because I know if I put my stop loss there, if it goes any further than that, I know that this is failing, which proves to me that you are lying, you are fake, you pulled your stop loss down even more to quote unquote protect yourself, but you already put a stop loss there to protect yourself, insinuating if I put my stop loss here, this is to protect myself because this means that my trade is failing and it's going to move to the opposite side. So it's funny how, yes, he moved his stop loss down on another account to $4,009 to protect himself even further, which doesn't make any sense. It's just a gamble play to make it seem like I made this play, I called this out, I told you so, but he over risked. Fortunately, again, this was cap 1000%. I don't care what you have to say. This is cap. Sorry, dude. You got to go. So people can understand in perspective, if you had $100,000, you would have been down $50,000. If you had 100,000, you would have been negative $50,000. $50,000. You've been done, half gone, right? That's what you would have risked, $50,000 on that trade to come true. So you're risking, you would have risked 50% of your account balance to make 50% of your account balance. I'm sorry, that doesn't make any sense. So hopefully this makes sense. If it doesn't make sense to you, send me a DM. We can have a conversation, a respectful conversation. I appreciate you guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. See ya.